Hey, Jewish Mom. It's good to be back with you. I hope that all of you had some wonderful Chagim, wonderful vacation. This week, I want to share a letter that I received from a Jewish mom, from whom I will call Mrs. Anonymous. So Mrs. Anonymous wrote me the following suggestion for a topic to address on jewishmom.com. She wrote, "Hi, I was wondering if you can touch on the topic of having a lot of kids and not being interested in having husbands' hands all over us after an entire day of dealing with all the kids. I find this so hard, and I'm sure so many moms might have some ideas about what they do. What do you think? Thanks." So when I first got this, I was like, oh, I don't talk about that kind of stuff on jewishmom.com. But, today when I was trying to think of what to make a pep talk about, I was like, well, why exactly should I not talk about that on jewishmom.com? So I'm talking about it on jewishmom.com. So I hope also that you. So she asked for suggestions from other jewishmom.com readers, and I hope that you'll leave your suggestions in the comments. But here's a few thoughts that I had after reading this. So many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, I took a really incredible class with a teacher named Rabbanit Talia Helfer. She's an Israeli teacher, and she was actually, maybe some of you remember, my first parenting teacher when I was a young mother of young children. And she made a point. It was like a series that went on for maybe, it was 8 classes. And it was based on the book of Rabbi Schlanger. And she said to us, she said, you should know in your married lives, if intimacy is good, everything will be good in your marriage. And I'm sure that it's more complicated than that. I'm sure that when you hear this, some of you are thinking of that friend or in your own lives, that this is not 100% true. But I think as an overall general rule, I believe it's true. When this is good, when intimacy is good, when intimacy is going well, then marriage goes well. And I think it's something so important when we're thinking about, our priorities in life. Because we know that we have certain priorities. We know it's a priority to take care of our children. It's a priority to make sure that there's food in the house for our families. And intimacy should be way, way, way up there in terms of what is important. So another practical comment from Rabbanit Talia that I think would be helpful to a lot of couples. I know a lot of couples where there's ongoing tension about the timing of intimacy, whether the husband wants more than the wife does, or the wife wants more than the husband does, or more frequently. And Rabbanit Talia suggested having a schedule for intimacy. She suggested twice a week. She said, Friday night, which is kind of the halachically preferred time for intimacy, Friday night, and also, and she suggested Tuesdays. She said it's the middle of the week. She said it's the nachta, the pause to break up the week. And this is not Torah Misinai. I'm not saying halacha, but I think that in general, I think it makes sense to have that conversation. To say, okay, like to get you and your husband on the same page in terms of when you're going to do this, how often, so that you can both be feeling satisfied, not frustrated. I think also when I read this letter, I think something very important is that it's so hard to feel taken care of enough, to take care of ourselves, that we feel well enough to be able to be available to our husbands emotionally and intimately. And I think that I have a neighbor, and she's kind of like my afternoon, like after gone pickup, kind of hang out in the playground, sit on the park bench buddy. And she's a resident, and she's also a mother, I think, of six 6 young children. Um, and um, and it's just incredible to think of like the balancing act that she has to do in order to balance being a mother of a bunch of young kids, and also a residency, and also to be like a resident. But the thing is, like, she understands, like, she knows how hard that is, and everyone knows how challenging this is. And so it's clear she has to have, a full-time babysitter. She has to have, she knows that she should have like cleaning help and help from her husband, and make time for this and make time for that. And, she knows that she knows that this is such a demanding combination, resident and mother, that she really has to invest a tremendous amount in making that balance work. And I think that the balance between being a mother of children, it doesn't matter how many, it could be 1 child, it could be 12 children, making that balance together with being a present spouse, I think it's just as hard. I know that personally, at least once a day, one time during the day at least, there's going to be a moment when I'm going to say, I am going crazy. I cannot deal with another moment of this, of kids, enough. There's one moment every day when I like either lose it or nearly lose it, or no, I need a break, okay? So I know that I need to do things to take care of myself. I need to do things to nurture myself. So what I do is I take time out. This is something I've been doing for many years, but I just read this past Shabbat. I read it presented very nicely. I was talking a few weeks ago about Laura Doyle, the author of The Surrendered Wife, and actually, so now I have all 3 of her books at home. So I think you're going to be hearing a lot from Laura Doyle this year. I think she's a complete genius, but on the topic of marriage. But she just presents in Surrendered Wife. She presents the following story. One second. So she talks about the importance of self-care in marriage. So she presents the following story. She said, my friend Sophie had done nothing but work, clean the house, chauffeur her kids from one activity to the next, and plan for a big party she was throwing on Saturday. At the end of the week, the dog wrestled with a skunk, and Sophie lost it. She came to me with a litany of complaints about her husband, Justin. He didn't make it to the cleaners when he said he would. His car is filthy. He left the fax machine on instead of the answering machine again. Justin and Sophie have been our friends for years, and I know that she is a hardworking and kind woman, and Justin is wonderful and adoring with only the usual number of human foibles. I could tell from Sophie's intolerance for his ordinary shortcomings that she must have been feeling spent, and I reminded her about self-care. Oh yeah, she said, that's probably the problem. I haven't done anything nice for myself in so long, I can't remember what it feels like. No wonder Justin was getting on her nerves, so Sophie was depleted. Sound familiar? Anyone feeling depleted out there? The next day at lunch, she made it to the beach to read a book, bought a new welcome mat, and gave herself a pedicure. For the next few days, she committed ahead of time to do at least 3 nice things for herself to restore her well-being. Okay, I'm going to read that again. For the next few days, she committed ahead of time to doing at least 3 nice things for herself to restore her well-being. She scheduled her morning meetings for 10 instead of 9 and vowed to go for a walk to clear her head. She gave herself permission to get takeout for dinner so that she wasn't preoccupied with the planning, cooking, and cleaning of the big meal at night. She also decided to sleep in on Saturday morning instead of getting up early to run errands before her real weekend started. Allowing herself these small comforts each day helped Sophie feel less rushed and more relaxed, and that improved her outlook on everything, including Justin, her husband, whose imperfections didn't seem quite as glaring anymore. Okay, so my basic point is this. Okay, it's something I say all the time, but I think it's so important. It's so important when we're thinking about intimacy. And I think that, and knowing that intimacy is so important. It should be at the top of our priorities. But how does that work when, as Mrs. Anonymous says, she's been dealing with little kids the whole day, dealing with little kids the whole day. How can she possibly deal with her husband? So I think that you need to just really, like a person in that situation, needs to just be very, very aggressive and very proactive about making time to take care of yourself. And I know it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult. We have crazy busy lives. Whether you're working outside the home or not, it doesn't really, it doesn't really matter in this, that I think that all of us, it's very difficult to make the time to take care of ourselves. So what Laura Doyle, what she recommends is, she recommends making a list of 10 things that you love to do. 10 things that make you happy. So I know for me, a few weeks ago, I made a list of things that I love to do. I love reading. I love going on long walks. I love going to bookstores. I love talking with my friends. I love doing a bunch of things. I made like a whole list. And she also suggested something else, which I haven't tried, which is interesting. She suggests also making a list of 10 things that will make you feel good afterwards. For example, going to an aerobics class, and maybe during doesn't feel so great, but afterwards you're going to feel fantastic. Or taking a nap, or cleaning, or doing cleaning out a certain closet, and then afterwards you're going to feel fantastic, like it's all so neat and wonderful. Okay, so so she recommends that on like an ongoing basis, doing 1 or 2 things from each list every day. But she says for people who are feeling in danger of becoming really depleted, to try and do 3 things. 3 things. Try and do 3 things every day until you feel yourself pulling out of it. Okay, 3 things from this list to invest in yourself and to feel like you're taking care of yourself. So I know like what I have to do, like when I get to that point every single day, when I'm with the kids and I'm like, like my husband's coming home soon and I cannot possibly deal with another human being coming into this house now. Okay, I just know I need to sit down and somehow do something to invest in myself. I even, I literally will, sit down with everything's going crazy around me. I'll make myself a cup of Chico, which is like a decaf kind of coffee. Make myself a cup of Chico. And in the middle of like all the chaos and everything, and I will sit down with a book. And that's already 2 things right there. I enjoy drinking Chico. I enjoy reading my book. And maybe I go out, this is going to sound funny, I go out and I take out the trash, which I enjoy, which I love doing in the middle of the crazy afternoon, just to get some fresh air and kind of see the birds and maybe run into a neighbor. Actually, it's funny, the other day I ran out of my house to take out the trash. And there was a woman trying to get by. There was like a closed, somebody had parked badly. And so there was somebody trying to get by in a minivan. And she says, "Oh, Hannah, Jenny, I can't believe it's you. I love your website." So it's just funny, just going out to take out the trash, which is like a second from my house, I ran into a Jewish mom, which is very nice. So in conclusion, okay, going back, remembering Rabbi Natalia, she reminded us, based on the teaching of Rabbi Schlanger, that when this is good, when intimacy is good, everything is good. When intimacy is good, your whole marriage will be good. This is like the heart of a marriage. It's the heart of the home. It's the heart of the family. That was what she taught us. That when this is good, when this heartbeat, it's like the heartbeat of the home, the heartbeat of the family, that intimacy. And so you should just remember that when you're making your priorities, remember just how important this is. And another suggestion that she had was in terms of having conversation with your husband about having a regular schedule for intimacy, so that there's not the constant tension. Okay, tonight, not tonight, not tonight, tonight. Okay, so having a schedule for regular days. She suggested Tuesdays and Shabbat and Friday night, but that's not Torah Misinai. Whatever works for you and your husband. Okay, and the third thing is, I mentioned my friend who's a resident and how hard she has to work to balance being a mother and being a resident. And I think that the balance that every mother makes between being a mother and being a present spouse or husband, I think it's just as difficult, and how proactive you have to be to make that work, and how hard you have to work to keep yourself functioning and keep yourself nurtured and keep yourself, in a good mood and energetic and not exhausted, you know, doing what you have to do, to get in a nap before your husband comes home and to feel energized somehow when your husband comes home, and to do what you need to do to make the marital relationship, and specifically intimacy, to make it to be in a good enough state yourself, so that intimacy can be what it's supposed to be, the center of the home, this positive force which is going to bring so much light and positive energy to your home. Okay. And so, on that note, I want to bless all future moms with an amazing week.